Victoria held her breath in the darkness. Downstairs, her stepfather poured something into her mother's tea. "Once this is done, everything is ours," he whispered into his phone. Victoria was 10 years old. Nobody would believe her. But if she stayed quiet, her mother would die by morning. She had to choose right now. And what she discovered next was far worse than she ever imagined. Hello friends, welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video, share and subscribe. Also tell us and comment where you are watching from. Is it United States, London, maybe Canada, Jamaica, South Africa, Barbados, or anywhere? We want to know. The house was too quiet. Victoria pressed her small body against the cold hallway wall, her bare feet silent on the marble floor. She held her breath, listening. Downstairs, someone was moving in the kitchen. The clock on the wall ticked loudly. It was almost midnight. She squeezed the silver wristwatch in her hand. It had belonged to her real father. The father who used to carry her on his shoulders. The father who called her his little warrior. The father who died 6 months ago and left a hole in her heart that nothing could fill. The watch was all she had left of him. She wore it every day even though it was too big for her wrist. Victoria heard footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Moving toward the living room. Her heart began to pound. She crept to the edge of the staircase and looked down. The chandelier cast long shadows across the expensive furniture. Gold-framed pictures hung on every wall. Her mother smiled in most of them. But in the recent ones there was someone else. Richard. Her stepfather. The man her mother married 4 months ago. The man who always smiled too much. The man who called Victoria sweetheart, but never looked her in the eyes. Victoria saw him now, standing in the kitchen doorway. He held a small glass bottle in one hand and his phone in the other. He was whispering. "Once this is done, everything will finally be ours." Victoria's blood turned to ice. Richard glanced around, then moved to the tea tray on the counter. Sharon, their maid, had prepared it earlier for Victoria's mother. Chamomile tea with honey. Her mother drank it every night before bed. Richard unscrewed the bottle. He poured something into the teacup. A clear liquid that had no smell. He stirred it quickly with a spoon, then put the bottle back in his pocket. Victoria's hands began to shake.
Yes,
"She won't feel a thing,"
completely.
Richard whispered
Don't
into the
worry, it
phone.
will be taken
"The
care of
doctors
shortly."
will think it's her heart. Stress, grief, whatever. And then the money is mine. Ours. Just like we planned." He smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Victoria's stomach hurt. Richard picked up the tray and walked into the living room. Victoria ducked behind the railing, her heart hammering so hard she thought he might hear it. "Darling," Richard called softly. "Your tea is ready." Victoria heard her mother's weak voice. "Thank you, Richard. You're so good to me. Anything for you, my love." Victoria felt tears burning in her eyes. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run down the stairs and knock the cup out of her mother's hands. But she was frozen. Her legs wouldn't move. What if he heard her too? What if no one believed her? She was just a child. He was a grown man. A rich man. A man everyone liked. Victoria heard the soft clink of the teacup being placed on the table. "Drink up," Richard said. "It'll help you sleep." "I will," her mother said. "Just let me rest my eyes for a moment." Richard's footsteps moved away. Victoria heard him climb the stairs. She pressed herself flat against the wall as he passed by without seeing her. He went into his office and closed the door. Victoria waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. Then she ran. Her feet flew down the stairs. She burst into the living room. Her mother was lying on the couch, eyes closed, breathing softly. The teacup sat on the table, untouched. Victoria grabbed it with both hands. Her fingers trembled. The tea was still hot. Steam rose from the surface. She looked at her mother's pale face. Her mother had been sick for weeks now. Tired. Weak. The doctors couldn't figure out why. But Victoria knew now. It wasn't sickness. It was poison. And tonight, Richard was going to finish what he started. Victoria's mind raced. She had to do something. But what? Who would believe her? Richard was smart. He was careful. He always had an answer for everything. She heard a door open upstairs. Panic shot through her. Richard was coming back. Victoria ran to the kitchen and poured the tea down the sink. She rinsed the cup quickly and filled it with fresh tea from the pot Sharon had made. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped it. She ran back to the living room and placed the cup on the table just as Richard's footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. Victoria dove behind the couch. Richard entered the room. He looked at the teacup. Then at Victoria's mother. "Still sleeping?" he murmured. He picked up the cup and sniffed it. His face tightened. He knew. He knew it wasn't the same tea. Richard's eyes swept the room. Victoria held her breath, her heart exploding in her chest. "Victoria?" Richard called softly. "Are you awake, sweetheart?" Silence. He walked slowly around the couch. Victoria squeezed her eyes shut, praying he wouldn't find her. But he didn't look behind the couch. Instead, he walked to the window and stared out into the dark night. "Someone's watching," he whispered to himself. "Someone knows." He pulled out his phone and dialed. "We have a problem," he said quietly. The T was switched. "Someone's on to us." Victoria couldn't hear the voice on the other end. "I don't know," Richard hissed. "The maid maybe. Or the kid. Either way, we need to move faster." He hung up and looked back at Victoria's mother, still sleeping peacefully on the couch. "Tomorrow then," he said. "One way or another, this ends tomorrow." He left the room. Victoria stayed behind the couch for a long time, shaking, crying silently into her hands. Her mother was in danger. Sharon was in danger. And she was the only one who knew the truth. But she was just a little girl. What could she possibly do against a man like Richard? Victoria looked down at her father's wristwatch. She turned it over in her hands. And that's when she noticed something she'd never seen before. There was a tiny latch on the side. With trembling fingers, she pressed it. The back of the watch popped open. Inside was a small, folded piece of paper. Victoria unfolded it carefully. It was her father's handwriting. "My dearest Elizabeth," it read. "If you are reading this, then I am gone. I need you to know something. Be careful who you trust. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Protect our daughter. Protect our fortune. And remember, the truth always finds a way. Love forever, Michael." Victoria read it 3 times. Her father had known. Somehow, he had known that someone would try to take everything from them. And now Victoria understood what she had to do. She had to find proof. Real proof. Something no one could ignore. She wiped her tears and stood up. Her fear was still there, but something else was growing inside her too. Anger. Her father called her his little warrior. It was time to be brave. Victoria walked quietly up the stairs. She could hear Richard talking on the phone in his office. She tiptoed past his door and went to her room. She grabbed her tablet from her desk. The one her mother gave her for her birthday. She opened the recording app. Tomorrow she would get the proof she needed. Tomorrow she would save her mother. And tomorrow Richard would finally face the truth. But tonight, as Victoria lay in bed staring at the ceiling, one thought kept repeating in her mind. What if tomorrow was too late? What if Richard moved faster than she could? What if she failed? Victoria clutched her father's watch to her chest and whispered into the darkness. "Help me, Daddy. Please help me." The house creaked and groaned around her. Somewhere down the hall, Richard's office door opened and closed. And Victoria knew, deep in her bones, that the most dangerous day of her life was about to begin. Morning came too quickly. Victoria woke to the sound of screaming. She shot out of bed, her father's watch falling from her chest onto the floor. The screaming was coming from downstairs. It was Sharon. Victoria's heart stopped. "Mom." She ran out of her room and down the stairs so fast she almost tripped. Her tablet bounced in her pajama pocket. The living room was full of people. Sharon was sobbing, her hands covering her mouth. 2 men in uniforms were leaning over the couch. And there, lying completely still, was her mother. "Mom?" Victoria screamed. She tried to run to her, but strong hands grabbed her shoulders. It was Richard. His face looked worried, but his grip was too tight. "Stay back, sweetheart," he said softly. "Let the doctors work." "What happened?" Victoria cried, struggling against him. "What's wrong with her?" "She collapsed in the night," Richard said. His voice was shaking, but his eyes were calm. Too calm. "Sharon found her this morning. She wasn't breathing properly." One of the doctors looked up. "We need to get her to the hospital. Now." They lifted Victoria's mother onto a stretcher. Her face was gray. Her lips were pale. An oxygen mask covered her nose and mouth. Victoria felt like the world was spinning. "Is she going to die?" she whispered. "No, no, sweetheart," Richard said, kneeling down to her level. "Your mother is strong. She'll be fine. The doctors will take care of her." But when he smiled, Victoria saw something flicker in his eyes. Relief. He was glad this was happening. The doctors rushed her mother out to the ambulance. Richard stood up and pulled out his phone. "I need to make some calls," he said. "Sharon, stay with Victoria." He walked into his office and closed the door. Sharon sank into a chair, her whole body shaking. Tears streamed down her face. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I made her tea last night just like always. I don't understand what happened. Victoria's mind was racing. She remembered pouring out the poison tea. But what if Richard had done something else? What if he'd found another way? She looked at Sharon. The maid had worked for their family for 3 years. She was kind. She always made Victoria's favorite pancakes on Saturdays. She didn't deserve what was about to happen to her. Because Victoria knew Richard's plan. She'd heard it last night. Blame the maid. Make it look like Sharon poisoned her mother. And walk away with everything. Victoria clenched her fists. She had to stop him. But she needed proof. She crept toward Richard's office. The door was slightly open. She could hear him talking on the phone. Victoria pulled out her tablet and pressed record. It's done, Richard was saying. His voice was different now. Colder. She'll be in the hospital for days. Maybe weeks. The doctors will run tests but they won't find anything concrete. And by the time they figure it out, it'll be too late. Silence as he listened. Of course I covered my tracks, Richard snapped. The maid handled everything. Her fingerprints are on the teacup, the pot, everything. When they start asking questions, all the evidence will point to her. Victoria's hands shook, but she kept the tablet steady. Once Elizabeth is gone, the inheritance transfers to me automatically. It's in the will. I made sure of that when we got married. She was so in love, she signed everything without reading it. Richard laughed. It was a sound that made Victoria's skin crawl. $3 million, baby. All ours. We just need to be patient a little longer. $3 million. That was the money her real father left behind. Money he'd saved his whole life. Money he wanted to take care of Victoria and her mother forever. And Richard was stealing it. I'll call you tonight, Richard said. After I play the worried husband at the hospital. Yes, I love you too. He hung up. Victoria quickly stopped the recording and ran back to the living room. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. She had it. She had the proof. But what should she do now? Should she show someone? Should she call the police? Before she could decide, Richard came out of his office. His face was wet with fake tears. The hospital just called, he said, his voice breaking. Your mother is in critical condition. They're doing everything they can, but the next 24 hours are crucial. Sharon gasped. Oh God, no. Richard put his hand on Sharon's shoulder. I know this is hard. But I need to ask you something. Sharon looked up at him, her eyes red and swollen. Did you give her anything different last night? Richard asked gently. Anything unusual in her tea? Sharon's face went pale. No, I swear. Just chamomile and honey like always. Are you sure? Richard pressed. Because the doctors said there might be something toxic in her system. Toxic. Sharon stood up, shaking her head frantically. No, I would never. I love Mrs. Elizabeth. I would never hurt her. I believe you, Richard said smoothly. But the police will want to ask you questions. They'll want to check everything. You understand, don't you? Sharon's legs gave out. She collapsed back into the chair. The police, she whispered. It's just procedure, Richard said. But his eyes were cold. Nothing to worry about if you're telling the truth. Victoria watched the trap closing around Sharon. She wanted to scream. She wanted to show everyone the recording. But something stopped her. Richard was smart. He would find a way to explain it. He would say Victoria misunderstood. He would say she was traumatized, confused, making things up. She needed more. She needed something he couldn't talk his way out of. Victoria looked at her father's watch. Then she looked at Richard. Can I go to the hospital? She asked quietly. I want to see Mom. Richard smiled down at her. Of course, sweetheart. Let me just make a few more calls and then we'll go together. He walked back into his office. The moment he was gone, Victoria ran upstairs to her room. She opened her closet and found the shoebox where she kept her special things. Birthday cards. Drawings. Photos of her real father. And something else. Something she'd found in her mother's bedroom a week ago. A piece of paper. Crumpled up in the trash can. At the time, Victoria didn't think much of it. But now she pulled it out and read it again. It was a letter. From a lawyer. Dear Mrs. Elizabeth Harris, this letter is to confirm the changes made to your will on October 15th. As discussed, in the event of your death, all assets will transfer to your husband, Richard Harris, with no provisions for your daughter, Victoria Harris, until she reaches the age of 25. Victoria's hands shook as she read the date. October 15th. That was 3 weeks ago. Right after her mother started getting sick. Richard had changed the will. He'd convinced her mother to sign away everything. And now he was trying to kill her to get it. Victoria heard footsteps in the hallway. She quickly shoved the letter into her pajama pocket, next to her tablet. "Victoria?" Richard called. "Time to go, sweetheart." She walked out of her room, her face calm even though her heart was screaming. "I'm ready," she said. They drove to the hospital in Richard's black car. The whole way he talked on the phone, making calls, canceling meetings, playing the concerned husband. Victoria stared out the window and thought about her father. The real one. The one who taught her to be brave. Sometimes, he used to say, the scariest thing and the right thing are the same thing. At the hospital, they were led to a private room. Victoria's mother lay in the bed, tubes and wires connected to her arms. Machines beeped steadily. Her eyes were closed. Victoria ran to her side and grabbed her hand. It was cold. "Mom," she whispered. "Please wake up. Please." Richard stood at the foot of the bed, his face serious. A doctor came in holding a clipboard. "Mr. Harris," the doctor said. "Can we speak privately?" "Of course." Richard glanced at Victoria. "Sweetheart, stay with your mother. I'll be right back." They stepped outside. But they didn't go far. Victoria could hear them talking through the half-open door. "Her blood tests show signs of poisoning," the doctor said quietly. "Some kind of chemical compound. We're running more tests, but I have to ask, is there any chance someone intentionally gave her something?" "Poisoning?" Richard gasped. Victoria could picture his shocked face. His perfect act. "That's impossible. Who would do such a thing?" "That's what we need to find out," the doctor said. "The police will be involved. They'll want to question everyone in your household." Of course, Richard said quickly. "Anything to help. Although, I hate to say this, doctor, but our maid has been acting strange lately. Nervous. Secretive." "Is that so?" "I didn't want to think badly of her," Richard continued. "But she's the one who prepares all the meals. She has access to everything. And recently, my wife discovered some money missing from her purse." "Lies. All lies." Victoria's face burned with anger. "I'll make sure the police know," the doctor said. "Thank you, doctor. I just want the truth to come out. For my wife's sake. And my daughter's." Richard came back into the room. His face looked sad, but Victoria saw the tiny smile hiding at the corner of his mouth. He thought he was winning. He thought Sharon would take the blame. He thought no one suspected him. But he was wrong. That afternoon, the police arrived at their house. Sharon was sitting in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a cup of cold tea. Two officers walked in. One was tall with gray hair. The other was younger with kind eyes. "Sharon Martinez?" the tall one asked. Sharon nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes. We need to ask you some questions about Elizabeth Harris." Sharon stood up, trembling. "I already told Mr. Richard. I didn't do anything wrong. I would never hurt Mrs. Elizabeth." "We're just gathering information," the younger officer said gently. "Can you tell us about the tea you made last night?" "It was chamomile," Sharon said. "With honey? Same as always. I made it around 9 o'clock. I left it on the tray in the kitchen. I didn't touch it after that." "Did anyone else have access to the kitchen?" "Well, yes. Mr. Richard was there. And Victoria sometimes. But I was the last one to leave. I locked up and went to my room." The tall officer wrote something down. "And you didn't notice anything unusual? Any strange smells? Different colors?" "No. Nothing. I swear." Richard stepped forward, his face full of concern. "Officers, I hate to add to this, but I think you should know. Sharon has been under a lot of stress lately. Financial problems, I believe. And last week, my wife noticed cash missing from her wallet." Sharon's eyes went wide. "That's not true. I never took anything." "I'm not accusing you," Richard said softly. "I'm just telling them what I know." The tall officer looked at Sharon with new suspicion. "Is it true you have financial problems?" I send money home to my family," Sharon stammered. "But I didn't steal. I would never." "We'll need you to come to the station," the officer said. "Just for more questions." "Am I under arrest?" Sharon's voice broke. "Not yet. But don't leave town." Sharon sank back into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Victoria watched from the doorway. Her whole body was shaking with rage. She couldn't wait anymore. She had to act now. Tonight. Because tomorrow Sharon would be arrested. Her mother might die. And Richard would win. Victoria looked down at her father's watch. Then she made a decision. She would gather everyone. Her mother's sister, Aunt Julie. Her mother's best friend, Margaret. The neighbors. everyone who cared about her mother. And tomorrow she would tell them the truth. All of it. With proof. Even if they didn't believe her. Even if Richard tried to stop her. She was done being scared. That night, Victoria lay in bed, her tablet hidden under her pillow. Her father's watch on her wrist. The letter from the lawyer tucked safely in her drawer. Downstairs, she could hear Richard on the phone again. Tomorrow morning, he was saying. The doctors say she might not make it through the night. And once she's gone, everything falls into place. The maid gets arrested. I get the money. And we can finally be together. He laughed. I know, baby. I know. Just a few more hours. That's all we need. Victoria closed her eyes and whispered into the darkness. I'm coming for you, Richard. And you're going to pay for what you've done. Outside her window, storm clouds gathered. Thunder rumbled in the distance. And Victoria knew that tomorrow would change everything. Victoria didn't sleep that night. She sat at her desk watching the clock. Every minute felt like an hour. Every hour felt like a lifetime. At 3 a.m, she heard Richard's car pull out of the driveway. He was going somewhere. Maybe to meet the woman on the phone. Maybe to finish his plan. Victoria grabbed her chance. She crept downstairs to Richard's office. The door was locked, but she knew where he kept the spare key. Under the ugly stone frog statue in the hallway. Her mother always said it was the worst decoration in the house. Victoria grabbed the key and unlocked the door. The office was dark and cold. Richard's desk was covered in papers. Victoria turned on her tablet's flashlight and started looking through them. Bills, bank statements, letters, and then she found it. A folder labeled, Estate Planning. Inside were copies of her mother's will. The new one Richard had made her sign. Victoria took pictures of every page with her tablet. But there was something else in the folder. Another document. This one wasn't signed yet. Life insurance policy. Beneficiary, Richard Harris. Amount, $2 million. Victoria's blood ran cold. Richard had taken out a life insurance policy on her mother. Just 2 months ago. If her mother died, he wouldn't just get the inheritance. He'd get $2 million more. $5 million total. That's what her mother's life was worth to him. Victoria's hands shook as she took pictures of everything. Then she heard something that made her heart stop. The front door opening. Richard was back. Victoria shoved the papers back into the folder and ran out of the office. She locked the door behind her and put the key back under the frog. Then she raced upstairs and dove into her bed just as she heard Richard's footsteps in the hallway. He stopped outside her door. Victoria squeezed her eyes shut, pretending to sleep. The door opened slowly. She felt Richard standing there watching her. Sleep well, little Victoria, he whispered. Tomorrow everything changes. The door closed. Victoria waited until she heard his bedroom door shut. Then she pulled out her tablet and looked at all the photos she'd taken. She had everything now. The recording. The will. The insurance policy. The lawyer's letter. Tomorrow she would show everyone the truth. But first she needed to make sure people would listen. At 6 a.m, Victoria got dressed and snuck out of the house. She walked 3 blocks to the payphone outside the grocery store. She'd seen it in movies. People used payphones when they didn't want anyone to trace their call. She dropped in some coins and dialed her Aunt Julie's number. Hello? Her aunt's sleepy voice answered. Aunt Julie, it's Victoria. Victoria? Honey, what's wrong? Why are you calling so early? I need you to come to the house today, Victoria said quickly. At 4 o'clock. It's about Mom. Please, Aunt Julie. It's really important. Is your mother okay? The hospital said she was stable. Just please come, Victoria begged. And bring anyone who loves Mom. Her friends. The neighbors. Everyone. Please. There was a pause. Victoria, you're scaring me. I'm scared too, Victoria whispered. But I need help. Please, Aunt Julie. Okay, sweetheart. Okay, I'll be there. We'll be there. Victoria hung up and made 3 more calls. To her mother's best friend, Margaret. To their neighbor, Mrs. Priscilla. To her mother's business partner, Mr. Thompson. 4 o'clock, she told them all. Please come. It's about Mom. By the time Victoria got back to the house, the sun was rising. Sharon was in the kitchen making breakfast, her eyes red and swollen. She hadn't slept either. Morning, Victoria, Sharon said softly. Morning, Sharon. Are you hungry? Victoria shook her head. Her stomach was too twisted to eat. Richard came downstairs, already dressed in an expensive suit. He looked tired but satisfied. Good morning, sweetheart, he said, ruffling Victoria's hair. How did you sleep? Fine, Victoria lied. I'm going to the hospital to check on your mother. Do you want to come? Victoria shook her head. I want to stay here. All right. Richard grabbed his briefcase. I'll be back this afternoon. Sharon, make sure Victoria eats something. Yes, sir, Sharon whispered. Richard paused at the door and looked back at Sharon. His eyes were cold. Oh, and Sharon? The police called. They want you to come to the station at 5 o'clock for more questioning. I suggest you get a lawyer. Sharon's face crumpled. Mr. Richard, please. I didn't do anything. I hope that's true, Richard said. For your sake. He left. The moment his car disappeared down the street, Sharon broke down sobbing at the kitchen table. Victoria walked over and put her hand on Sharon's shoulder. It's going to be okay, Victoria said quietly. Sharon looked up at her through tears. How is it going to be okay? They think I poisoned your mother. I'm going to lose my job. Maybe go to jail. My family back home needs me. What's going to happen to them? You're not going to jail, Victoria said firmly. Because today, everyone's going to know the truth. Sharon stared at her. What do you mean? I mean Richard did this. Not you. And I can prove it. Sharon's eyes widened. Victoria, what are you talking about? Victoria pulled out her tablet. I recorded him. I found papers in his office. He's been poisoning Mom for weeks. He changed her will. He took out life insurance on her. He's doing all of this for money. Sharon's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, Victoria. If this is true, if he finds out you know. That's why I called people to come here today, Victoria said. At 4 o'clock. Before he gets back from the hospital. I'm going to show them everything. And then we're going to stop him. Sharon stood up, her whole body shaking. Victoria, this is dangerous. He could hurt you. We should call the police right now. The police don't believe me yet, Victoria said. They believe him. But if I show everyone at the same time, if they all see the proof together, he won't be able to lie his way out. Sharon looked at this brave little girl and saw something that broke her heart. Victoria wasn't a child anymore. She'd been forced to grow up too fast. What do you need me to do? Sharon asked. Just be there, Victoria said. And tell everyone what you know. About the tea. About how Richard tried to blame you. About everything. Sharon nodded slowly. Okay, I'll do it. The rest of the morning crawled by. Victoria kept checking her tablet, making sure the recordings were still there. Making sure the photos were clear. At noon, the hospital called. Victoria answered the phone with shaking hands. Is this the Harris residence? A nurse asked. Yes. This is Mercy Hospital. I'm calling about Elizabeth Harris. Her condition has worsened. The family should come as soon as possible. Victoria's heart stopped. Is she going to die? The doctors are doing everything they can. But you should come. Victoria hung up the phone. Tears filled her eyes. She had to hurry. She had to expose Richard before it was too late. At 2 o'clock, Richard called. Victoria, sweetheart, the hospital just contacted me. Your mother's not doing well. I'm going to stay here with her. I might not be home until late. Okay, Victoria said. Are you all right there with Sharon? Yes. Good girl. I'll call you later. He hung up. Victoria looked at Sharon. He's going to stay at the hospital. That means he won't be here at 4. Is that good or bad? Sharon asked. I don't know, Victoria admitted. But we can't wait. Mom doesn't have time. At 3:30, people started arriving. And Julie came first. She was tall and strong with the same kind eyes as Victoria's mother. She swept Victoria into a tight hug. What's going on, honey? You sounded so scared on the phone. Just wait, Victoria said. Please wait until everyone gets here. Margaret arrived next, her face worried. Then Mrs. Priscilla from next door. Then Mr. Thompson, her mother's business partner. By 4 o'clock, 8 people were gathered in the living room. They all looked confused and concerned. Victoria, Aunt Julie said gently, tell us what's happening. Is this about your mother? Victoria stood in the center of the room. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding. But she thought about her father's watch on her wrist. She thought about her mother lying in a hospital bed. And she found her courage. Mom didn't get sick by accident, Victoria said. Her voice was quiet but steady. Someone poisoned her. Someone who wanted her money. Someone who's trying to make Sharon take the blame. Gasps filled the room. Who? Aunt Julie demanded. Who would do that? Victoria took a deep breath. Richard. My stepfather. He did it. The room exploded. That's impossible, Mr. Thompson said. Richard loves your mother, Margaret protested. No, he doesn't, Victoria said. She pulled out her tablet. He loves her money. And I can prove it. She pressed play on the recording. Richard's voice filled the room. Cold. Calculating. Evil. It's done. She'll be in the hospital for days. Maybe weeks. The maid handled everything. Her fingerprints are on everything. When they start asking questions, all the evidence will point to her. Everyone froze. Once Elizabeth is gone, the inheritance transfers to me automatically. $3 million, baby. All ours. The recording ended. The silence was deafening. Then Aunt Julie stood up, her face white with fury. That monster. That absolute monster. There's more, Victoria said. She showed them the photos of the changed will. The life insurance policy. The lawyer's letter. He's been planning this for months, Victoria explained. Since before he even married Mom. He made her change her will. He took out life insurance. He's been poisoning her slowly so it would look natural. And when that wasn't working fast enough, he tried to finish it last night. Sharon stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. It's true. He tried to blame me. He told the police I stole money. He said I was stressed. He made it look like I had a reason to hurt Mrs. Elizabeth. But I didn't. I would never. We believe you, Aunt Julie said firmly. She turned to Mr. Thompson. Call the police. Right now. Mr. Thompson pulled out his phone. But before he could dial, they heard a sound that made everyone's blood run cold. A car pulling into the driveway. Richard was home. Victoria's heart nearly stopped. He wasn't supposed to be back yet. The front door opened. Richard walked into the house, whistling softly. Then he saw everyone gathered in the living room. His smile vanished. What's going on here? He asked slowly. His eyes swept across the room, taking in every face. Then they landed on Victoria. On the tablet in her hands. His expression changed. The mask of the perfect husband cracked. And underneath was something dark and dangerous. Victoria, Richard said quietly. What have you done? Aunt Julie stepped in front of Victoria, shielding her. The question is, what have you done, Richard? I don't know what you're talking about, Richard said. But his hand moved slowly toward his pocket. We know everything, Margaret said, her voice shaking. We heard the recording. We saw the documents. You tried to kill Elizabeth for her money. Richard's face hardened. That's ridiculous. That's a child's imagination. Victoria has been traumatized by her mother's illness. She doesn't know what she's saying. I know exactly what I'm saying, Victoria said, stepping out from behind her aunt. You poisoned my mom. You changed her will. You tried to frame Sharon. And you did it all for $5 million. Richard stared at her. For a long moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Richard laughed. It was a terrible sound. Cold and empty. You think you're so smart, he said to Victoria. You think you've won. But you have no idea what I'm capable of. He pulled something out of his pocket. A gun. Women screamed. Mr. Thompson pushed Mrs. Priscilla behind him. Sharon grabbed Victoria and pulled her back. Richard pointed the gun at the ceiling and fired once. The bang was deafening. Everyone shut up. Richard shouted. Sit down. Now. They all sat, hands raised, terrified. Richard's eyes were wild now. The perfect husband was completely gone. What remained was a desperate man who'd lost everything. You just couldn't leave it alone, could you, Victoria? Richard snarled. You just had to play detective. You just had to ruin everything. You ruined it yourself, Victoria said. Her voice shook, but she didn't cry. When you decided my mom's life was worth money. Your mother was already dying. Richard spat. She had a weak heart. Bad genetics. She was going to die anyway. I just sped things up. And if she had died quietly, peacefully, no one would have questioned anything. I would have been the grieving widower. Sharon would have been fired. And I would have moved on with my life. With the woman on the phone, Victoria said. The one you promised the money to. Richard's face twisted. You don't understand. I had debts. Gambling debts. Bad investments. I needed that money to survive. Your mother was my way out. So you killed her, Aunt Julie said, her voice filled with disgust. I didn't kill her, Richard snapped. She's still alive. Barely. But alive. Not for long if the hospital's call was real, Victoria said quietly. Something flickered across Richard's face. Confusion. What call? He asked. The hospital called at noon, Victoria said. They said Mom's condition got worse. That we should come right away. That's why I thought you'd stay there all day. But you came home instead. Richard's face went pale. The hospital didn't call me. Everyone stared at him. Then who called Victoria? Margaret whispered. Richard's eyes widened in horror. The hospital didn't call anyone. Because nothing's wrong. Your mother's stable. She's been stable since this morning. The doctor said she was improving. Victoria felt the world tilt. What? Someone called you, Richard said slowly. Someone pretending to be the hospital. To scare you. To make you panic. But who would? Sharon began. Richard's phone rang. He looked at the screen. His face went white as a sheet. He answered it, the gun still pointed at the room. Hello. A woman's voice came through the speaker, loud enough for everyone to hear. Hello, darling. Did you really think I'd let you keep all that money for yourself? Richard's hand started shaking. What did you do? I made a call, the woman said, her voice sweet as poison. To little Victoria. To bring everyone together. To make sure they all knew the truth about you. Because if you're going to jail, Richard, you're going alone. I'm not going down with you. You set me up, Richard breathed. You set yourself up, the woman laughed. Goodbye, Richard. Enjoy prison. The line went dead. Richard stood there, frozen, staring at his phone. And then the front door burst open. Police officers flooded the room. Drop the weapon. Hands in the air. Richard's gun clattered to the floor. He raised his hands slowly, his face blank with shock. The officers grabbed him, forcing him to the ground. Handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Richard Harris, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. As they dragged him out, Richard looked back at Victoria one last time. You're just a child, he said. How did you? I'm my father's daughter, Victoria said simply. And with that, Richard was gone. The room erupted in chaos. People crying. People hugging. Sharon collapsed on the floor, sobbing with relief. Aunt Julie wrapped her arms around Victoria and held her tight. It's over, she whispered. It's finally over. But Victoria wasn't so sure. Because as she looked down at her father's watch, she realized something. Richard wasn't the only villain in this story. There was still the woman on the phone. The one who'd helped him plan everything. The one who'd betrayed him at the end to save herself. And somewhere out there she was walking free. The police station was bright and cold. Victoria sat in a small room with Aunt Julie beside her. A detective sat across from them, writing notes in a thick folder. Her name was Detective Pierce. She had short gray hair and tired eyes that looked like they'd seen too much. You're very brave, Victoria, Detective Pierce said gently. What you did today saved your mother's life. And Sharon's future. Is my mom going to be okay? Victoria asked. That was all she cared about now. The doctors are flushing the poison from her system, the detective explained. It'll take time, but they think she'll make a full recovery. Victoria felt tears of relief slide down her cheeks. Aunt Julie squeezed her hand. What about Richard? Aunt Julie asked. He's being charged with attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy, and several other crimes, Detective Pierce said. He'll be in prison for a very long time. But we have another problem. Victoria looked up. The woman. Detective Pierce nodded. The one who called you pretending to be the hospital. The one Richard was planning all of this with. We need to find her. Do you know anything about her, Victoria? Victoria thought hard. I saw her face once. On Richard's phone. She was pretty. She had long dark hair. And she looked expensive. Like someone who wears fancy clothes and jewelry. Anything else? Richard called her baby, Victoria said. But I don't know her real name. Detective Pierce pulled out Richard's phone. It had been taken from him when he was arrested. She scrolled through the messages. He deleted most of their conversations, she said. But our tech team is recovering them now. We'll find her. Women like that always leave a trail. As they talked, a young officer rushed into the room. Detective, you need to see this. Detective Pierce stood up. Stay here, she told Victoria and Aunt Julie. But Victoria could hear voices in the hallway. Excited voices. We found her. She just tried to board a flight to Mexico. Is she in custody? Bringing her in now. Victoria's heart raced. They'd caught her. 20 minutes later, Detective Pierce came back into the room. Her face was grim. We got her, she said. Her name is Natasha. She's been Richard's girlfriend for 8 months. Since before he married your mother. What? Aunt Julie gasped. He was cheating the whole time? It gets worse, the detective said. Natasha has a record. She's done this before. 3 times. She finds wealthy men, helps them plan crimes against their families, and then disappears with half the money. But this time something went wrong. Richard didn't trust her, Victoria said quietly. That's why he didn't tell her about the meeting today. That's why she got scared and set him up. Detective Pierce looked at Victoria with surprise. That's exactly right. How did you? I heard it in his voice, Victoria explained. When she called him at the end. He was shocked. He didn't expect her to betray him. Which means he was planning to betray her first. Smart girl, Detective Pierce murmured. Too smart for your age. Aunt Julie hugged Victoria closer. She had to grow up fast. Would you like to see her? The detective asked. Natasha asked to meet you. She says she wants to apologize. Why? Victoria asked suspiciously. I don't know, Detective Pierce admitted. But you don't have to if you don't want to. Victoria thought about it. Part of her wanted to go home to see her mother, to forget this nightmare ever happened. But another part of her needed to understand. Needed to look this woman in the eye and know why she'd done this. I'll see her, Victoria said. They led her to another room. This one had a table with 2 chairs. On one side sat Natasha. She was beautiful just like Victoria remembered. Long dark hair that shined under the lights. Perfect makeup. Expensive clothes. But her hands were cuffed to the table, and her eyes were red from crying. When she saw Victoria, Vanessa's face crumpled. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Victoria sat down across from her. Detective Pierce stood by the door. Why? Victoria asked. Why did you help him try to kill my mom? Natasha looked down at her hands. Money. It's always about money. I grew up with nothing. No family. No future. I learned early that the only way to survive was to use people. Rich people. People who had more than they deserved. My mom deserved her money, Victoria said angrily. My dad worked hard for it. He saved it for us. I know, Natasha said, tears spilling down her cheeks. I know that now. But when Richard told me about the inheritance, all I saw was $3 million. I didn't think about you. I didn't think about your mother as a real person. She was just a target. Did you love him? Victoria asked. Richard. Natasha laughed bitterly. No, I've never loved anyone. That's my problem. I don't know how, but I thought Richard loved me. I thought we were partners. And then I heard him on the phone with someone else. Another woman. Making the same promises he made to me. Victoria's eyes widened. There was someone else? Natasha nodded. He was going to take the money and run with her. Leave both of us behind. That's when I realized I was just another tool to him. Just like your mother was. Just like everyone was. So I decided to destroy him first. By calling me, Victoria said. By pretending to be the hospital. Yes, I knew you were smart. Richard talked about you sometimes. He said you watched him. That you didn't trust him. I knew if I pushed you, if I scared you enough, you'd act. You'd expose him. And you did. You used me, Victoria said quietly. Yes, Natasha admitted. I used you to save myself. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But if I hadn't, Richard would have gotten away with it. Your mother would be dead. Sharon would be in prison. And he'd be living on a beach somewhere with his money and his new girlfriend. Victoria stared at this broken woman across from her. Natasha had done terrible things. She'd helped plan a murder. She'd manipulated everyone. But in the end, she'd also saved them. What's going to happen to you? Victoria asked. Prison, Natasha said softly. For a long time. Maybe forever. And I deserve it. Yes, Victoria said. You do. Natasha nodded, fresh tears falling. For what it's worth, Victoria, you're the bravest person I've ever met. You're 10 years old and you stood up to a monster. You saved your family. I never saved anyone in my whole life. I only destroyed. Victoria stood up. Maybe you can change. In prison. Maybe you can become someone who helps people instead of hurting them. Natasha looked up at her with desperate hope. Do you really think I can? Victoria remembered her father's words. Everyone can change. If they want it badly enough. She turned and walked out of the room. Detective Pierce followed her. That was very mature of you, Victoria. I don't feel mature, Victoria said. I feel tired. That's what happens when you fight battles that aren't meant for children, the detective said gently. But you won. Remember that. You won. They took Victoria and Aunt Julie to the hospital. The sun was setting now, painting the sky orange and pink. Victoria watched it through the car window and thought about how much had changed in just one day. This morning, Richard was free and her mother was dying. Tonight, Richard was in jail and her mother was healing. But the price was high. Victoria had seen things no child should see. She'd heard things that would give her nightmares for years. She'd learned that people could smile at you while planning to destroy you. The world felt darker now, colder. At the hospital, they led Victoria to her mother's room. The machines were still beeping but slower now, calmer. Her mother's face had more color. Her breathing was steady. Victoria walked to the bed and took her mother's hand. "Mom," she whispered. "Can you hear me?" Her mother's eyes fluttered, then opened. "Victoria," she breathed. Her voice was weak but clear. "My baby. I'm here, Mom. You're safe now." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I heard, the nurses told me, what you did. How you exposed Richard. How you saved me." "I had to," Victoria said simply. "I couldn't let him win." Her mother reached up with a shaking hand and touched Victoria's face. "My brave little warrior. Just like your father." Victoria pulled out the wristwatch. "He helped me. His note. His warning. It made me pay attention. It made me brave." Her mother looked at the watch and smiled through her tears. "He's still protecting us. Even now." Aunt Julie stepped forward. "Elizabeth, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what Richard was. I should have protected you." "No one could have known," Victoria's mother said weakly. "He fooled everyone. Even me. Especially me. I was lonely after Michael died. I wanted to believe someone could love me again. I ignored the warning signs." "It wasn't your fault," Victoria said fiercely. "Richard was a liar. He was good at it, but not good enough." Her mother squeezed her hand. "What's going to happen now?" "Richard's going to prison," Aunt Julie explained. "So is his girlfriend. The will is being changed back. The insurance policy is canceled. And we're going to make sure you and Victoria are protected. Really protected this time." "And Sharon?" her mother asked. "Sharon's free," Victoria said. "The charges were dropped. She's at the house now. She wants to stay if you'll have her." Her mother nodded. "Of course. She's family." They stayed there for hours talking quietly. The nurses came and went, checking machines, adjusting tubes. Victoria refused to leave her mother's side. Finally, around midnight, her mother fell into a peaceful sleep. Real sleep this time. Not the poison-induced unconsciousness but actual rest. Aunt Julie tried to get Victoria to go home. "You need sleep too, honey." But Victoria shook her head. "I want to stay here. Just in case." "In case what?" "In case she needs me." So they brought in a small bed and Victoria curled up next to her mother's hospital bed, her father's watch still on her wrist. She dreamed that night. Strange dreams full of shadows and voices. But through it all, she felt her father's presence. Watching over her. Proud of her. When she woke up, sunlight was streaming through the windows. And her mother was sitting up in bed, smiling at her. "Good morning, my warrior," she said. Victoria smiled back. "Good morning, Mom." For the first time in months, Victoria felt like everything might actually be okay. But she also knew she was different now. Changed. The little girl who played with dolls and watched cartoons was gone. In her place was someone older. Someone who'd seen the worst of human nature and survived it. Someone who'd learned that sometimes being brave means standing alone. Someone who'd learned that the truth is worth fighting for no matter the cost. Someone who'd learned that evil can wear a smile, but so can love. Over the next few days, things slowly returned to normal. Or at least, a new kind of normal. Victoria's mother grew stronger. The doctors were amazed at her recovery. They said she was lucky. That a few more days of the poison would have caused permanent damage to her heart. But Victoria knew it wasn't luck. It was timing. It was courage. It was love. Sharon came to visit every day, bringing flowers and homemade soup. She and Victoria's mother cried together, apologized together, forgave together. The police finished their investigation. Richard confessed to everything. He didn't have much choice with all the evidence Victoria had gathered. He'd spend the next 20 years in prison. Natasha got 15 years. During the trial, she testified against Richard, explaining how they'd planned everything together. How they'd researched poisons. How they'd practiced manipulating Victoria's mother. How they'd planned to frame Sharon. The judge called them both cold, calculating predators who preyed on a widow's grief. Victoria didn't go to the trial. She didn't want to see Richard's face ever again. But she read about it in the newspapers. Everyone was calling her a hero. The brave little girl who saved her mother. But Victoria didn't feel like a hero. She just felt like someone who did what had to be done. The hardest part came a week later, when Victoria's mother sat her down for a serious talk. "Victoria, sweetheart, I need to apologize to you." "For what, Mom?" "For bringing Richard into our lives. For not seeing what he was. For putting you in danger. You're my daughter. My job is to protect you. But instead, you had to protect me." Victoria shook her head. "Mom, you didn't know. No one knew." "But I should have," her mother insisted. "Your father warned me. In that note. And I didn't listen. I was so desperate to not be alone that I ignored every red flag." "Dad's gone," Victoria said gently. "You were sad. That's normal. And Richard was good at pretending. Even I almost believed him sometimes." Her mother pulled Victoria into a tight hug. "I promise you I will never put us in danger like that again. From now on it's just you and me. No more strangers. No more rushing into things. Just our family." "And Aunt Julie," Victoria added. "And Aunt Julie," her mother agreed with a smile. "And Sharon. And the people who've proven they love us." That night, Victoria stood in her room, holding her father's watch. She opened the back and read the note again. "Be careful who you trust. Protect our daughter. Protect our fortune. The truth always finds a way." Her father had been right about everything. Victoria carefully folded the note and put it back inside the watch. Then she placed the watch in a special box on her dresser. She didn't need to wear it anymore. Her father's protection was inside her now. His strength. His wisdom. His courage. She was her father's daughter. And she always would be. 3 weeks passed. Victoria's mother came home from the hospital on a sunny Tuesday morning. The house felt different now. Lighter. Like a dark cloud had finally lifted. Sharon had cleaned everything. Fresh flowers filled every room. The windows were open, letting in warm air and birdsong. It felt like home again. But that night Victoria couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. Every creak made her jump. Every shadow seemed to move. She kept thinking about Richard. About Vanessa. About how close they'd come to winning. What if she hadn't seen Richard that night in the kitchen? What if she hadn't recorded him? What if no one had believed her? Her mother would be dead. Sharon would be in prison. And Richard would be rich and free. The thought made Victoria's stomach hurt. She got out of bed and walked downstairs. The house was dark except for a single lamp in the living room. Her mother sat on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at nothing. "Mom? Why are you awake?" Her mother turned, startled. Then she smiled softly. "I could ask you the same thing." Victoria sat down beside her. "I can't stop thinking about it. About what happened. About what almost happened." Her mother put her arm around Victoria's shoulders. "Me too. Every night I wake up thinking Richard's standing over me. That he's going to finish what he started." "But he's in prison," Victoria said. "He can't hurt us anymore." "I know. But fear doesn't listen to logic." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "Victoria, I need to tell you something. Something I've been keeping from you." Victoria felt her stomach tighten. "What?" "Richard wasn't the first person to try to take advantage of our family." Victoria stared at her. "What do you mean?" Her mother took a deep breath. "After your father died, people came out of nowhere. Distant relatives we'd never met. Old friends who suddenly needed money. Business partners who claimed your father owed them debts. Everyone wanted a piece of what he left behind. Did you give them money?" "Some of them, yes. I was grieving. I wasn't thinking clearly. Your Aunt Julie had to step in and help me see that most of them were lying. Using my grief to steal from us." Victoria felt anger rising in her chest. Why do people do that? Why do they hurt people who are already hurting? "Because they see weakness as opportunity," her mother said sadly. "Your father used to say that money reveals people's true character. When there's money involved, some people become monsters." "Is that why Dad wrote the warning note?" Victoria asked. Her mother nodded. "He knew. Before he died, he knew that people would come after his money. After me. After you. He tried to warn me. But I didn't understand until it was too late." They sat in silence for a while. Then Victoria asked the question that had been bothering her for days. "Mom, was there really another woman? The one Natasha mentioned? The one Richard was planning to run away with?" Her mother's face darkened. "Yes. The police found her. Her name is Christine Ward. She works at the bank where Richard kept our accounts." Victoria's eyes widened. "The bank?" "She helped him access information about the inheritance. About the life insurance. She gave him everything he needed to plan the perfect crime. In return, he promised her half the money." "Where is she now?" "She ran. The moment Richard was arrested, she disappeared. The police are still looking for her. Her mother's voice turned bitter. So out there, somewhere, is another woman who tried to destroy our family. And she's free. Victoria felt something cold settle in her chest. She'll come back, won't she? For the money. I don't know, her mother admitted. But we're ready this time. Aunt Julie hired security. Changed all our passwords. Moved our money to different accounts. Christine Ward won't get anywhere near us. But Victoria couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. That somewhere in the shadows someone was still watching. Still waiting. The next day, Victoria went back to school for the first time since everything happened. Everyone stared at her. Some kids whispered. Some pointed. Everyone knew her story. It had been all over the news. That's the girl who caught her stepdad trying to kill her mom. I heard she recorded him confessing. She's only 10 years old. How did she even know what to do? Victoria kept her head down and walked to her classroom. Her teacher, Mrs. Anderson, gave her a kind smile. Welcome back, Victoria. We're glad you're here. But during lunch, 3 girls from her class surrounded her table. Is it true? One of them asked. Her name was Jessica. She was popular and mean. Did your stepdad really try to kill your mom? Victoria didn't answer. My mom says your family is cursed, Jessica continued. First your dad dies. Then your stepdad tries to kill your mom. What's next? Maybe you're the problem. Victoria felt tears burning behind her eyes. But she refused to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. Leave me alone, she said quietly. Or what? Jessica laughed. You'll record me and send me to jail? The other girls laughed too. Victoria stood up, grabbed her lunch tray and walked away. Behind her, Jessica called out, Run away. That's what you're good at, right? Victoria made it to the bathroom before the tears came. She locked herself in a stall and sobbed. She'd stopped a murderer. She'd saved her mother's life. She'd exposed evil and won. So why did she feel so alone? That evening, Aunt Julie came over for dinner. She took one look at Victoria's face and knew something was wrong. What happened at school? She asked gently. Victoria told her everything. About Jessica. About the whispers. About feeling like everyone saw her as damaged or weird. Aunt Julie's face grew stern. Those children don't understand what you've been through. They don't understand courage. All they know is gossip and drama. I just want to be normal again, Victoria whispered. I want things to go back to how they were before Dad died. Before Richard. Before everything. Her mother reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. I know, sweetheart. I wish I could give that to you. But we can't go back. We can only go forward. But forward to what? Victoria asked. What if this follows me forever? What if I'm always the girl whose stepdad was a murderer? Then you're also the girl who was brave enough to stop him, Aunt Julie said firmly. You're the girl who saved lives. You're the girl who stood up for truth when adults couldn't or wouldn't. That's who you are, Victoria. Don't let anyone make you feel small because you did something big. Victoria wanted to believe her. But it was hard. That night she had a nightmare. She was back in the house watching Richard pour poison into the tea. But this time when she tried to stop him, her voice wouldn't work. She tried to scream but no sound came out. She tried to run but her legs were frozen. Richard turned and saw her. He smiled his cold smile. Did you really think it was over? He asked. Did you really think you won? Behind him, Natasha appeared. Then Christine Ward, a woman Victoria had never met but somehow recognized. They all circled around her, laughing. You're just a child, Natasha said. You can't stop us all, Christine added. There will always be someone else, Richard whispered. Someone new. Someone smarter. Someone you won't see coming. Victoria tried to run, but hands grabbed her from the darkness, pulling her down, drowning her. She woke up screaming. Her mother rushed into the room, turning on the lights. Victoria. Victoria, it's okay. It's just a dream. But Victoria couldn't stop shaking. He was there. They were all there. They said it's not over. They said someone else is coming. Her mother held her tight. It was just a nightmare, sweetheart. Richard's in prison. Vanessa's in prison. They can't hurt us. But Christine's still out there, Victoria sobbed. And maybe there are others. People we don't know about. People who want our money. People who want to hurt us. Her mother didn't have an answer for that. Because Victoria was right. The world was full of people like Richard. People who saw others as opportunities instead of human beings. The next morning, Detective Pierce called. We found Christine Ward, she told Victoria's mother. She was trying to cross the border into Canada. She had a fake passport and $200,000 in cash. Where did she get the money? Her mother asked. She'd been stealing from the bank for months. Small amounts that no one noticed. She was planning to disappear and start a new life. Is she in custody? Yes. She'll be charged with fraud, conspiracy, and theft. She'll join Richard and Natasha in prison. Her mother thanked the detective and hung up. Then she told Victoria the news. Victoria should have felt relieved. All three of them were caught. All three were going to prison. But instead she felt empty. There will be others, won't there? Victoria asked quietly. Maybe not now. Maybe not for years. But someday someone else will come. Someone who sees our money and thinks we're easy targets. Her mother sat down beside her. Maybe. Probably. But Victoria, that's not a reason to live in fear. Your father didn't want that for us. He wanted us to be careful, yes. But also to live. To be happy. To not let evil people steal our joy. How? Victoria asked. How do I do that when I know what people are capable of? Her mother thought for a long moment. Then she took Victoria's hands in hers. You remember what your father taught you. You stay aware. You trust your instincts. But you also open your heart to good people. People like Sharon. Like Aunt Julie. Like the friends you'll make who see you for who you really are, not just your story. What if I can't tell the difference anymore? Victoria whispered. Between good people and bad people? Richard seemed good at first. So did Vanessa. What if I let another monster into our lives? Then we'll face it together, her mother said firmly. But Victoria, you can't lock yourself away from the world. You can't stop trusting everyone just because some people are evil. That's letting them win in a different way. Victoria understood what her mother was saying. But understanding and believing were two different things. Over the next few weeks, Victoria slowly started to feel better. The nightmares came less often. School got easier as the gossip died down. Even Jessica eventually left her alone. But Victoria had changed. She watched people more carefully now. She noticed things. The way someone smiled didn't reach their eyes. The way they asked too many questions about money. The way they seemed too interested in her mother. She'd become a guardian. A protector. Always alert. Always watchful. It was exhausting. But it was also necessary. One Saturday afternoon, Victoria was reading in her room when she heard voices downstairs. Her mother was talking to someone. A man. Victoria's heart started racing. She crept to the top of the stairs and listened. I really appreciate you seeing me, Elizabeth, the man said. His voice was smooth and friendly. I know this must be a difficult time. It's fine, Jason, her mother replied. But I'm confused about why you wanted to meet. Jason. Victoria remembered that name. Jason Chin. He was one of her father's old business partners. Someone her mother said she trusted. But Victoria's instincts were screaming at her. She quietly walked downstairs and peeked around the corner. Jason sat on the couch, a briefcase beside him. He was well-dressed and professional-looking. But something about him made Victoria's skin crawl. I wanted to discuss a business opportunity, Jason said. An investment that your husband and I talked about before he passed. He was very interested, but we never got to finalize it. What kind of investment? Her mother asked. Real estate. Very lucrative. Low risk, high reward. I've already put in $2 million of my own money. But I need one more investor to make it work. Someone I trust. Someone like you. Victoria's blood ran cold. This was it. Another trap. Another predator. She stepped into the room. Mom, can I talk to you? In private? Her mother looked surprised. Victoria, honey, I'm in the middle of a meeting. It's important, Victoria said, her eyes locked on Jason. Jason smiled at her. It's fine, Elizabeth. Family first, always. I can wait. Victoria and her mother went into the kitchen. Her mother looked concerned. What's wrong, sweetheart? Don't trust him, Victoria said urgently. Don't give him any money. Victoria, Jason was your father's friend. They worked together for years. Then why did Dad never mention this investment? Victoria asked. Why didn't he put it in his papers? Why is Jason only bringing it up now, after Dad's dead and can't confirm the story? Her mother's face went pale. You think he's lying? I think he's another Richard, Victoria said. Another person who sees us as easy targets. Please, Mom. Don't do this. Her mother stared at Victoria for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay. I'll tell him no. They went back to the living room. Her mother's voice was polite but firm. Jason, I appreciate you thinking of me. But I'm not interested in investing right now. I need to focus on my family and my health. Jason's smile faltered. Elizabeth, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you pass this up, then I pass it up, her mother said. Thank you for coming by. Jason's eyes flickered to Victoria. For just a second she saw something dark there. Anger. Frustration. Then he smiled again and stood up. Of course. I understand. If you change your mind, you know where to find me. After he left, her mother turned to Victoria. How did you know? I didn't, Victoria admitted. Not for sure. But something felt wrong. And after everything we've been through, I'd rather be wrong about a good person than right about a bad one. Her mother pulled her into a hug. You're wise beyond your years, Victoria. And I'm sorry you have to be. That night Aunt Julie called. She'd done some research on Jason Chin. He's being investigated for fraud, she told them. Multiple investors have accused him of running a pyramid scheme. He's desperate for money to cover his losses. If Elizabeth had invested with him, she would have lost everything. Victoria felt vindicated but also sad. Another predator. Another person trying to use them. How many more would there be? The next morning, Victoria woke up feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Tired. Not just sleepy. But tired of being afraid. Tired of watching everyone. Tired of waiting for the next monster to show up. She sat at breakfast, pushing her food around her plate. Her mother watched her with worried eyes. Victoria, are you okay? I don't know, Mom. Am I? Are we? Will we ever be? Sharon set down a pitcher of juice and sat at the table with them. What's wrong, little one? Everything, Victoria said, her voice breaking. First Dad dies. Then Richard tries to kill Mom. Then Vanessa. Then Christine. Now Jason. When does it stop? When do we get to just be normal? Her mother reached across the table and took Victoria's hand. I've been thinking about that too. And I realized something. We can't control what bad people do. We can't stop them from trying to hurt us. But we can control how we respond. I don't understand, Victoria said. We can't live our whole lives in fear, her mother explained. Yes, we need to be careful. Yes, we need to be smart. But we also need to live. Really live. Not just survive. But how? Victoria asked. How do I stop being scared all the time? Sharon spoke up, her voice gentle. You don't stop being scared, Victoria. You learn to be brave anyway. You did that once already. You can do it again. But this time you don't have to be brave against evil. You have to be brave enough to trust good things again. Victoria looked at both of them. What if I let the wrong person in? What if I trust someone and they hurt us? Then we'll deal with it together, her mother said firmly. But Victoria, you can't protect me from everything. You're my daughter. I'm supposed to protect you, remember? Not the other way around. But you were dying, Victoria whispered. You needed me. And you saved me, her mother said, tears in her eyes. You were so brave. So strong. But sweetheart, you don't have to be the warrior anymore. You can just be a little girl again. Let me and Aunt Julie and Sharon be the adults. Let us worry about the bad people. You just worry about being 10 years old. Victoria felt tears rolling down her cheeks. I don't know how to do that anymore. I don't know how to stop watching everyone. I don't know how to just play and have fun and not think about poison and money and people who lie. Her mother came around the table and knelt beside Victoria's chair. She wrapped her arms around her daughter and held her tight. Then we'll learn together, she said. We'll both learn how to heal. How to trust again. How to be happy again. It won't happen overnight. But we'll get there. Sharon wiped her own tears away. And you won't do it alone. You have people who love you. Real love. Not fake love like Richard. We're your family. That afternoon, Aunt Julie came over with a surprise. She had plane tickets. What are these? Victoria's mother asked. Tickets to the beach, Aunt Julie said with a smile. For all of us, including Sharon. We leave tomorrow. 2 weeks of sun, sand, and absolutely no thinking about Richard or money or any of it. Julie, I don't know if we're ready, her mother started. That's exactly why we're going, Aunt Julie interrupted. You've been trapped in this house, in this city, in this fear for months. You need to get away. You need to breathe. You need to remember what it feels like to be happy. Victoria looked at the tickets. Part of her wanted to say no. The house felt safe. Leaving felt dangerous. But another part of her, a small quiet part, whispered, maybe this is how you start living again. Can I think about it? Victoria asked. Of course, Aunt Julie said. But the tickets are non-refundable, so I really hope you say yes. That night, Victoria stood in her room, looking at her father's watch. She picked it up and held it in her hands. "Dad," she whispered, "I don't know what to do. You told me to be careful, to protect Mom, to watch for danger. But I'm so tired. I just want to be a kid again. Is that okay? Is it okay to stop being scared?" Of course, the watch didn't answer. But as Victoria held it, she remembered something her father used to say. A warrior knows when to fight, but a warrior also knows when to rest. Maybe this was her time to rest. Victoria walked downstairs and found her mother and Aunt Julie in the living room. "I want to go," she said. "To the beach. I want to go." Her mother's face lit up with hope. "Are you sure?" "No," Victoria admitted. "But I think that's okay. I think being brave means doing things even when you're not sure. Even when you're scared." Aunt Julie smiled. "That's the wisest thing I've heard all week." They packed that night. Clothes and sunscreen and books. Victoria packed her father's watch too. Not to wear. Not to worry over. Just to have it close. The next morning they drove to the airport. Sharon sat in the back seat with Victoria, both of them quiet but excited. On the plane, Victoria looked out the window as they took off. She watched her city get smaller and smaller until it disappeared beneath the clouds. And for the first time in months, she felt something light growing in her chest. Oh. At the beach house, everything was bright and warm. The ocean stretched out forever, blue and peaceful. The sun felt good on Victoria's skin. That first day, Victoria's mother took her hand and they walked along the beach together. "When I was your age," her mother said, "my father told me something I never forgot. He said, life will hurt you. People will disappoint you. Bad things will happen. But if you let those things make you hard and cold, then the bad things win. The real victory is staying soft, staying kind, staying open to love." "That sounds hard," Victoria said. "It is," her mother agreed. "It's the hardest thing in the world. But it's also the most important thing. Because Victoria, you saved my life. You stopped Richard. You won that battle. But if you spend the rest of your life afraid and closed off, then Richard wins anyway. He takes your childhood, your joy, your future. Don't let him have that power." Victoria thought about this as they walked. The ocean waves rolled in and out, steady and calm. "I want to be happy again," Victoria said finally. "I want to laugh and play and not think about bad people. But I don't know how." "One step at a time," her mother said. "One moment at a time. Right now in this moment, are you safe?" Victoria looked around. The beach was beautiful. Her mother was beside her. The sun was warm. "Yes." "Then that's enough. Just be in this moment. Tomorrow we'll worry about tomorrow." Over the next few days, something amazing happened. Victoria started to relax. She built sandcastles with Sharon. She swam in the ocean with Aunt Julie. She read books under an umbrella and didn't think about danger every 5 seconds. One evening, as the sun set over the water, painting everything gold and orange, Victoria's mother called everyone together. "I want to say something," she announced. "This year has been the hardest year of our lives. We lost Michael. We were betrayed by Richard. We faced evil and darkness. But we also learned something important. We learned who our real family is. Not blood family. Not legal family. But chosen family. The people who stand by us when things get hard." She looked at Sharon. "Sharon, you could have quit when things got scary. But you stayed. You supported us. You're not just our housekeeper. You're our sister." Sharon wiped tears from her eyes. Then her mother looked at Aunt Julie. "Julie, you've been our rock. Our protector. Our guide. I don't know what we would have done without you." Aunt Julie smiled. "That's what family does." Finally, her mother looked at Victoria. "And Victoria, my brave, beautiful, strong daughter. You grew up too fast this year. You faced things no child should ever face. But you did it with courage and wisdom and love. I'm so proud of you. And now I'm giving you permission to stop being the warrior. Stop being the protector. Just be my little girl again. Can you do that?" Victoria felt tears streaming down her face. But they were good tears this time. Healing tears. "I can try," she said. Her mother pulled her into a hug. "That's all I ask. Just try." That night, Victoria stood on the beach alone, looking up at the stars. The ocean whispered behind her. The moon was bright and full. She thought about her father. About Richard. About everything that had happened. And then she made a choice. She chose to forgive herself for being afraid. She chose to believe that most people were good. She chose to trust that her mother and Aunt Julie and Sharon would protect her so she didn't have to protect everyone else. She chose to heal. Victoria pulled out her father's watch and held it up to the moonlight. "I'll always remember you, Dad," she whispered. I'll always be your warrior when I need to be. But right now I'm going to try to be a kid again. Is that okay? The wind picked up, warm and gentle. And Victoria could almost hear her father's voice in it. That's more than okay, little warrior. That's everything I ever wanted for you. Victoria smiled. She put the watch back in her pocket and walked back to the beach house, where light and laughter spilled out into the night. Inside, her family was playing cards. Real family. Safe family. Good family. Sharon looked up and waved. Victoria, come play with us. And Victoria did. She sat down at the table. She laughed. She joked. She was silly and loud and carefree. She was 10 years old again. The next 2 weeks flew by. Swimming. Building sandcastles. Eating ice cream. Watching sunsets. Just being together. On their last night at the beach, Victoria's mother tucked her into bed. How do you feel? She asked. Victoria thought about it. Different. Lighter. Like maybe things might actually be okay. They will be, her mother promised. Not perfect. Not easy. But okay. We'll make sure of that. Together. Mom? Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think you'll ever get married again? Her mother was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe someday. But not for a very long time. And never, ever without talking to you first. You're part of this family. Your voice matters. Good, Victoria said. Then she smiled. But when you do, can we make sure he's not secretly evil? Her mother laughed. A real, genuine laugh that made her whole face light up. Yes, we'll definitely make sure of that. She kissed Victoria's forehead. Sleep well, my warrior. Tomorrow we go home. And we start our new life. Our real life. The one where we're happy. Victoria closed her eyes, feeling safe and warm and loved. Richard was in prison. Natasha was in prison. Christine was in prison. Jason was gone. All the monsters were locked away or far away. And here, in this moment, Victoria was just a little girl with her family. That was enough. That was everything. As she drifted off to sleep, Victoria dreamed of her father. He was smiling at her, proud and full of love. You did it, little warrior, he said. You saved your family. Now go live. Really live. For both of us. And Victoria knew, deep in her heart, that she would. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, subscribe and comment on the lessons learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in the next video.